The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
Okay. Yeah, you're in my way. She's in my way. That being said, right now I only see GD on the screen, but previously I saw like the whole place was filled up, the whole screen was filled up. So that was nice to see, and I look forward to the day when that happens, when I give a Dhamma talk. So, but anyway, this is a fine occasion here, fine occasion, and let me introduce Reverend Onryu Kennedy, an associate teacher of Hokyoji. She has received transmission in both the Katagiri and Uchiyama lineages. In 2019 and 20, she did lots of practice everywhere. Toshoji, Tassajara, lots of it. Hard practice. Believe me, I know from personal experience. And did the zuise kind of thing. And yeah, and now she's got this very prestigious thing called a Kokusaifukuyoshi. It's a title. So that's actually, you have to work hard to get that, let me tell you. And that's a part of a title as a teacher recognized by Sotochu in Japan as someone transmitting the Dharma here in the West. I'm not one of those people. I try to be, but.
Still my hero.
Well, anyway, okay, let's move on. Throughout her life, she has valued social justice work, and as an expression of her vow, she is currently the associate teacher at Hokyoji Zen Practice Community. You updated your bio, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
She experiences great joy in the opportunity to learn and teach Buddhist practices. So that being said, I will turn it over to let us hear what GD has to say. I just wanted to do a quick tech check. Can we get back to gallery view and just we'll edit this out later. Is everyone hearing okay? And just thumbs up? Yeah, lots of thumbs up. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, thank you, GD. And here's your microphone to say on your robes. And
Can we go back? I just want to make sure people can hear me. Can everybody hear me? Thumbs up? Awesome. Okay, good. Okay.
I think we can leave it.
Yeah, I'm good. You guys good?
Yeah.
Are you guys good? Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for that, that really sweet introduction. That was wonderful. This week, practitioners with mighty spirits have been practicing here with us and all beings here at Hokyoji. And I know we're not supposed to think in Zazen, but one of the things that I was struck with as I was sitting was like, oh, this week has been like being in Japan for me, just weather-wise. It's been awesome. I want to say that. And it's been a little dynamic with the weather. We've had these wonderful thunderstorms. We've had this wonderful humidity. I mean, yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, this was like when I was in Japan in 2021. Your robes never got dry. I mean, so it's been the weather and the bird life, and we saw fawn, and we've seen so much life this week. It's been really wonderful. And yes, it's been dynamic for each of us and all beings, in that sitting and watching your mind isn't, it's not a sport. You don't go out and get a hot dog afterwards and have a Coke or a beer. You stay with it. So that's why I feel that we've all been kind of a mighty group, just hanging in there with all conditions. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the innumerable beings who have taken care of Hokyoji, and the innumerable beings who have created this precious place for all beings, including us, to practice. I want to offer homage to the Sac and Fox Nation for their great stewardshipness of this land, and whose knowledge and care we have benefited from in this moment, not just in the past. I offer homage to all Buddhas and ancestors, seen and unseen, whose energy ripples through time and space and beyond. And I offer homage to our teachers, Dokai, and our many innumerable teachers, including mice, family and friends who support our practice. Today, I want to offer what I've been studying. I've been studying, some of us participated in a intensive by Shihaku Roshi in his teaching of Jijuyu Zanmai, Menzan's commentary on Dogen's Bendawa. And within that intensive, one of the things that he brought forward was a history of Soto Zen in medieval Japan. And I was struck with how much I don't know about medieval Soto Zen or Soto Zen in medieval Japan, and how that ignorance really kind of limits my understanding of Zen here and now. So I would like to offer just kind of what I've been learning about some of the history, and then I would like to just offer my current understanding of Jijuyu Zanmai, because it can always deepen. And I want to say, I'm not a scholar. I'm not trying to pretend I know things. I mean, I'm just sharing with you what I've been learning, and inviting you, if you want to, if there's nuances and information that you have, please bring your voice forward. And also, we will have an opportunity for everybody to bring their voice into this circle. Not just me, but all voices. And maybe every now and then you'll hear a bird too bring their voice into the circle. It's quite lovely when that just happened. Did you hear it? It's been an interesting week. So the following books are ones that I've been studying, and I just want to bring them forward. And some of this was recommended too by Shihaku Okamura Roshi. And one of the books is Soto Zen in Medieval Japan by William M. Bodeford. It's quite a lovely book, and part of what I think is so beautiful about this book, you probably can't see it, but there's a monk, and he's offering the Dharma to a hungry ghost. I'm like, how sweet. Man, I want to be able to do that. Maybe in my next lifetime. I have a long ways to go. I'm working it though. And also, this is a great book, Zen Masters, edited by Steve Hine and David S. Wright. Menzan's in here, Dogen's in here, and other teachers are in here, and it's exquisite too. And The Perfect Wisdom Sutra by Edward Kanze. These are just recommendations. I might be getting carried away, and I apologize. This is the Heart of Zen, and this includes Menzan's commentary of Jijuyu Zanmai. It's in here, and there's other commentaries too on Uchiyama Roshi's teachings. So these books have they've opened a new world for me in relationship to Soto Zen, in relationship to Soto Zen, my practice of Soto Zen. And actually what it's done, it's kind of like those like bulbs that have like snowflakes in them, and you turn them upside down, and then you turn them the right way, and it's all discombobulated until it settles. That's kind of how I feel right now. And it's in a very good way though. So it's a great practice. So I just want to just bring forward some dates, some people. This isn't like a class, but it just helps me organize people in space and time and how they are present in this moment, right here and now. So Dogen was born in 1200 and died in 1253. He died young, I want to say. 53 is young. Even in medieval Japan, it's young. A lot of these Zen guys, they lived to be 80, 90, and 100. Dogen lived 53 years. He burned his life force to his full capacity in 53 years. That's amazing. And Dogen, who is Dogen? Dogen is one of our ancestors and founder of Soto Zen. And the more I read about Dogen and the history of Soto Zen, I feel like Dogen had his own Zen, and he'd probably throw a stone at me, but I'd call it a school, a Dogen Zen school. Dogen was a scholar, a poet, a great teacher of Buddhist teachings and practices. We've been studying the Tenzo Kyoken. In the Tenzo Kyoken, you open it up, and it's like a blooming flower that blooms continuously. Because Dogen brings forward stories of the Chinese teachers and students that he's met. He brings forward koans. He brings forward the Lotus Sutra. He's also known for bringing forward teachings on the Heart Sutra. So his knowledge is vast. Plus, he had the direct experience of going to China. He had a deep aspiration, and many of you know, when you have a deep aspiration, you will do anything. You will follow that North Star no matter what. And Dogen did that. I mean, now we can fly to China, right? In a matter of hours. And the boats, or ships, excuse me, the ships are probably much safer now than they were in 1223 when Dogen went to Japan. I mean, he was on a mission. I'm like, and he was on a mission for all beings, including us, you, me. I mean, wow. So the Tenzo Kyoken is just, it flowers and it blooms in a myriad ways. And Dogen wrote the Tenzo Kyoken in 1237. And this text is not just about how to cook in a monastery. The text is about how do we live our lives in relationship to our practice, in relationship to zazen or meditation or whatever word is comfortable to sit with one's mind. There's two temples in Japan that are very important, I think, for us to know, or for me to know. Maybe not, maybe you don't think it's important, and that's okay. One is Sojiji in Yokohama, and the other is Eheiji in Fukui. And Eheiji was Dogen's temple that he established in, would have been 1243, around that time. And 10 years later, Dogen died. That to me is very significant, that Dogen was creating a monastery. He was beginning, right? He was beginning. There were no buildings, right? Like Hokyoji, there were no buildings. he was building a monastery 10 years, and it wasn't complete. And he passed. And one of the things that I learned from Okamura Roshi is Dogen passed in 1253. It wasn't until Menzan, who was born in the 17th century, that Dogen's teachings came forward. Dogen was remembered as a teacher, but his teachings were not studied and investigated. Okamura Roshi said that they were like, kind of like sutras, just something to be worshipped. So that to me is very significant. What is that Dogen dies in 1253, and his teachings don't emerge until Menzan in the 17th century. So who is Menzan? Menzan is pretty awesome too. Menzan was a great scholar and practitioner. He wrote a commentary on Silent Illumination by Wanshi. And Wanshi is one of our ancestors as well in the 12th century, 11th or 12th century. I'm sorry I don't have the exact dates, but around that time. And Menzan wrote the commentary on Dogen's Jijuyu Zanmai. And we have that in the chant book. Sometimes we chant that. And that commentary, what strikes me about that commentary is that that commentary was written for lay people. It wasn't written for monastics. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome, because it's written for us. I mean, it's written for us. So Menzan, he studied with a teacher, Sono Shiku, and a lot of this information is in this book. He was Menzan's main teacher, and Menzan studied with a lot of what I would consider great teachers back then. But he chose Sono, and Sono said to Menzan, please, or excuse me, I would say please. I don't think Sono would say please. Just my story. Sono said, only see Dogen's face. Only study Dogen. And Menzan took that and followed the instructions. And that's why we have this commentary on Dogen. And one of the things that I do want to bring forward is, as I was reading the history of Soto Zen, there are many personal conflicts, there are many struggles within and between Buddhist sects and Buddhist practitioners. The tension between Rinzai and Soto Zen, the tension between Soto Zen begins at the beginning of endlessness. And I find this history liberating. Though there's a spiritual foundation to our practice, greed, anger, and ignorance are constantly arising throughout space and time. And our ancestors were not separate from us, and we are not separate from them. And there is a cultural context in which we are practicing this ancient way. And I feel like the pivotal moment for me is that Zazen supports this mind and this heart opening. And it's inconceivable what that opening, what the possibility of that opening can bring forward for me and for all beings. And so when I talk about a cultural context, what I'm talking about for me is that my experience in Japan is Seido Roshi wore his robes everywhere. His robes were like a second skin. And it was just natural when he went to the grocery store, and we did. I went to the grocery store with him and we got donuts. I was so happy. It was great. They were good donuts too. When he was getting gas, and when we traveled with him to Hiroshima, he wore his robes. I don't do that. I can't think of a time that I went to the co-op wearing my robes or going to the gas station. It's just, it wouldn't feel totally in alignment. And yeah, so working, for me, I wear my robes in the temples and I wear robes at funerals. I mean, I'm kind of, I've kind of set that up. So it's a much different experience for me here than it is for Seido Roshi in Japan. And that's what I'm speaking to when I talk about cultural context. And it's vast too. And what is Jijuyu Zanmai, and why do we study it? How do we practice this wisdom, and how is this practice connected to wisdom, prajna paramita, and radiant light? These questions have supported my mind, this mind, in my aspiration to respond to arising conditions a little more skillfully. And when we're in this kind of container, I can really see my mind. I mean, I call it Zazen mind. We have Zazen mind when we sit and retreat like this. The mind, it's almost like a laser, this Zazen, and it just magnifies the mind. And it's like, whoa, can I bear this? Yes, I can. It's impermanent. So what is our response to this magnification of our karmic conditions? For me, I want to cultivate this compassion. I want to cultivate this wisdom. So we often chant the Heart Sutra. And in the Heart Sutra, we chant the condensed form, or we say the condensed form. There is in the Prajna Paramita Sutras, there is it's more expansive and fuller. There's more color for me. So in Edward Kanze, he was a scholar of the Prajna Paramitas, and Katagiri Roshi used Edward Kanze a lot. He referred to him in the Diamond Sutra, particularly. So I just want to read about Prajna Paramita. Thus have I heard at one time, the Lord dwelled at Rajagriha on the Vulture Peak, together with a large gathering of both monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Lord is the Buddha. After he had taught the discourse on Dharma called deep splendor had entered concentration, samadhi. At that time also the Holy Lord Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, in the course of the deep perfection of wisdom. He looked down from on high, and he saw the 5 skandhas, and he surveyed them as empty in their own being. Thereupon, the Venerable Shariputra, through the Buddha's might, because the Buddha's in samadhi, but the Buddha's supporting all beings, said to the Holy Lord Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son or daughter of good family train themselves if they want to course in the course of this deep perfection of wisdom? This is a bomb, because no, I'm not sorry. This conversation is happening within Buddha's samadhi, right? I mean, there's that kind of communication has so much depth. It's beyond the conceivability of this limited mind, right? Even if I have Zazen mind, it's beyond me. And I believe it. For me, even though it's beyond me, I aspire for prajna paramita. I aspire for wisdom, because this wisdom can have the possibility for me to respond to this, my suffering in the suffering world, with more skillful means. So to me, what's important in these 2 paragraphs, though I really riff on the samadhi, Buddha being in samadhi, not saying anything and yet saying something. But what's important to me is he coursed in the course of deep practice of wisdom. He was practicing, he was investigating, he wasn't just thinking about it, but he was actually moving. And I want to just take a few more minutes before I open it up to kind of connect some of this. So our practice is shikantaza, just sitting. When we sit, we let go, we let thoughts come and we let them go. This is hard. Uchiyama Roshi calls this activity opening the hand of thought. There is no goal in this practice, which is in our cultural context, it's all about goal. It's all about producing. It's all about accomplishment. This is totally counterintuitive. There's nothing to gain here. This is not stopping the mind from thinking. If we try to stop the mind from thinking, the mind will just resist. And we know this because if somebody tells us to do something, we'll no. I mean, we'll just quietly say no and then turn around. So the mind is like that too. Or at least that's my experience. You can tell me what yours is. So in the nature of the mind is to think. We have a brain. We want to use it. The brain is a very good organ for us. And in this practice, what's helpful is the precepts, and particularly just distilling them down to the 3 full pure precepts: not doing harm, doing good, and embracing all beings. Meditation and wisdom, those are our 3 pillars. Dogen saw these as not separate. He saw them as seamless, connected, supporting, and interacting and interpenetrating together. And this was similar to Dogen's 3 aspects of the mind in the Tenzo Kyoken: joyful mind, one that is grateful and buoyant, understanding and appreciative; elder mind or grandmother's mind. I've heard Reb talk about it as grandmother's mind. The mind that takes care of all beings; magnanimous mind, great mind, like a mountain, stable, like an ocean, boundless, vast view. And these aspects are not static. Like Dogen's like just moving them and intersecting them. And to me, that's so important, because sometimes my experience has been within the Western context, we're very linear. Things are measured. Things have a beginning, they have an end, they're scheduled. So this is like just kind of pulling the rug out from underneath me and saying, no. See what happens when there's no ground to stand on, which in the minds are just moving and intersecting. Just let them arise and respond to these conditions in a nimble and more liberated way for myself. So Jijuyu Zanmai is our Zazen practice. We practice this Dharma within our lived experience, whether it is with people, conditions, watching our monkeys, students, teachers, right? And Okamura Roshi states, and I feel like this is in relationship to the Tenzo, but it's also in relationship to our life. The Tenzo's life is at the intersection between discrimination and non-discrimination. We receive the food with no judgment and then make discrimination about the best way to use it. That is wisdom to me. You can share with me what you think. We practice receiving the arising conditions and notice the judgment around them. We open our hand of thought and allow our wisdom, prajna, we have prajna, to emerge and respond the best we can in this moment. And we practice endlessly. Thank you. I just want to open it up for people's questions, comments, responses. Musho?
About, now we don't hear much about Menzon, or I don't know much about Menzon, but what was going on at the time? Was there anything going on that led to this kind of resurgence of Dogen as a subject of study? How did that play out?
I would invite you to read this, and then let's have a discussion, because it's very dynamic and nuanced, and it does inform our practice. And it's a koan. Why was Dogen buried from the 14th century to the 17th century. And also, I think that question is also related to who Dogen was. I mean, he didn't play from my view. I mean, so yeah, so please, and if you're open, I'm happy to have that conversation more fuller with you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Onryu, for the talk. I was taken by when you talked about recognizing the tensions within Soto Zen and the recognition that greed, hate, and delusion arise endlessly within our religious institutions. I'm more of a question. I'm curious if you could just share more about how that's influenced your thought about religious institutions, how we relate to them, think about them, or even try and create them. Because it seems like a very helpful thing, but then it's like, well, how do we relate to this thing that we often paint as completely rosy or having full trust in or something? And I just wondering if you could share any more.
Okay, I want to, first of all, I have a personality too. I just want to be forthcoming with that. We won't get into the specifics. Thank you for practicing with me. It's an important question. And I feel that it's one that I want to honor. I want to honor my teachers. I want to honor what has been given to me and offered to me. It's been an incredible gift. And part of my responsibility is to take what I've learned and to my capacity to go beyond the ancestors. Because when I go beyond the ancestors, I'm bringing them along, and someday I will be an ancestor and somebody will go beyond me. And I want people to go beyond me. I don't want people, we don't need inertia or to be static. So I want to say that. And then my commitment right now, and I've said this to my capacity, is to support the next generation, bringing their voices into the circle, bringing their experiences into this circle, as well as continuing to bring my voice in, but I need to step back and really uplift the next generation. I mean, when I look around, you're Doan, you have a child and a spouse. Is this okay? Mm-hmm. Your Dharma positions are innumerable. It's not like you're a monastic, and yet you're a very serious practitioner. And that's what Zen looks like right now in the 21st century, for me at least, maybe not for others. In an urban Zen center, it's different. This is a more rural Zen center. But to honor people's conditions, to honor people's capacity, simultaneously bringing people, the next generation, into this conversation. What does Zen look like in the 21st century? what supports you in these conditions? What did Buddha say? What did Dogen say? And let's not bury this question for 200 years or 300 years. I mean, and I don't have the answer. Right now I just have the questions, right? And I do know that bringing other people's voices in is part of the interconnection that we all share together and can strengthen our practice. So I appreciate your question, and I appreciate you letting me say that you have a child.
It is true.
Shoto?
What you just said. What you just said started a train of thought, but I didn't finish it. I listened to you. So I'll just start this train of thought and we'll see what happens. You spoke of the next generation and not letting something disappear for 200 or 300 years again. And I've already lost all your words.
It's okay.
But yeah, I know. And so I think, I mean, you and I share something about the way we do practice, which has to do with engaging pretty intensely with the, well, we'll say politics. And that's one of the things, I got a little distracted because I thought, we share that. And then I started trying to think of other people who share that too. But there's something that we're creating here in this difficult time. Dogen lived in a difficult time.
Yes, he did.
It was a very,
Let's highlight that.
all the monks, the people who would hide in the monastery to avoid whatever political stuff. And so he had to say, don't talk about politics. Of course, he had to say, don't talk about sex. And to make it a place of real practice, regardless of why people were there. And so here we are in a difficult time. And each finding like our contribution to the stream.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how it's going to come out.
I think, is it okay for me to respond?
Please, please.
I think that's exciting. I
Mm-hmm.
think this is an exciting time. And we need as many voices. We need to be listening to all beings and inviting everybody who wants to participate in this practice to come through the porthole, come through the door, come through the gate. We welcome you. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're wearing a robe. It's the heart. I mean, it's the true heart, right? I mean, Katagiri Roshi was all about true heart. So it's like, let's open up, let's blow the doors open and
Yes.
invite whoever wants to come in to come in. I mean, that's,
Thanks.
okay,
That's good. I'm with you.
okay. Thank you. Is there anybody online who would like to bring your voice into this conversation? We welcome you.
Come on, onliners.
No press.
I'm going to call on somebody. No, I'm not actually.
Any bodhisattva want to come forward in space?
Well, they all seem to be muted today, so. In any event, I have something I can say. I appreciate your question. As you were speaking, I was thinking, well, this is unbelievable, unfathomable that even the disciples of Katagiri Roshi don't all get along with each other. Can you imagine such a thing? So, not perfectly at every moment, let's put it that way. In any event, so when we hear about these things, it actually is comforting to me. It's like, oh yeah, there's nothing really special about us Buddhist practitioners. We're human beings at the bottom of it all. And you get a group of people together and there's going to be conflict. Let's just admit that. So the main principle that I try to work with is conflict's going to happen. It's unavoidable. How do you deal with it? And, well, you try to do the best you can, be open, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's just the way it is. And that's okay.
I wanted to add, thank you so much for your talk and for sharing this amazing bounty that you have in front of you. I want those books now.
I'll point you in the direction.
And my question is kind of like a koan, and I carry this with me, and it's part of my inquiry as a practitioner. It's very easy to attach yourself to anger, hate, and delusion. Super easy. But how do you also find a way to not completely attach yourself to love and companionship and all of the things we experienced this week here? Because as we leave, a little bit of us is gonna be empty.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to respond too, please feel free. I thank you for the question. I want to say that my feeling is that first of all, the connection, I want to address kind of the space, the empty space. I want to acknowledge that empty space. Simultaneously, I want to say, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, the connections that I have with people here, they're ongoing. It's not something that is just it is in this moment, and it's beyond this moment. Part of our practice, I feel, is valuing connection, strengthening our network, because that strengthens me as a human being. And not getting attached. I haven't thought about the possibility of not being attached, to being too attached to love, because it's just something, compassion and loving kindness is something that, for me, that I'm cultivating. So I don't know about being too attached to love, because right now I'm not. It's something I'm practicing. And the greed, anger, and ignorance, what I have learned is that's my karma. that's something, that's energy that helps me to really look at myself in a humble way, if I can. You know, it's not easy. To look at myself and pivot, right? Pivot, transform those feelings of greed, anger, and ignorance into love, into compassion. And I want to say, I don't know if it's possible to love too much. I don't know. So I just want to say that because I just feel like I want to love myself so I can love all beings. And right now I need to develop that capacity. So is that okay to say?
That's great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question.
There's a thing about, I mean, the Buddha said that the support of spiritual friends is the whole of
Yes.
this,
Right.
the spiritual life. And so that's, that's our tradition. And I think it's natural that there's sisters or something, greed and love. They're not the same though. Takes some discernment. There's a kind of totality to loving, a wholeness that can look like greed, or but I think that's one point of practice maybe, is how do we love wholly without being greedy?
Okay.
There's no limit to love. Like, love is not, it's not reasonable. And so, but that's not the same as greed, I don't think.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd like to respect our time limit. So now's our scheduled time to end. Thank you, GD, so much. And let me make a couple of announcements. Face the camera. So next week we have Erin. It's Erin. It's just like if I'm Dokai Ron Jordson, she's Erin Davis. She's got a gifted Japanese teacher who tries to use our own names, and like my name might be On or something like that, if he were my teacher. But anyway, he wasn't. But that's Erin's teacher. So she's speaking next week. So Erin, you want to just raise your hand there? That's Erin. Okay. And then, well, this is the conclusion. This day concludes this retreat that GD has been leading here. And then our next retreat is on July 12th through 19th with Clouds and Water. And you would need to register through them. That's their kind of event. And then on July 26th, we have a family weekend event here. Come down, even if you don't have a family, you can come. And then on 7/31, we have another Clouds and Water retreat, and that's being led by Fish Murphy. And I think you would register through Clouds and Water with her, and that's the way it's sitting. And finally, in August 10th, we start our Jewel Near session here, who is led by Daigaku Rume from St. Louis, Confluence, and Ray Rin Gimble from Milwaukee, and myself. So those are the announcements. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, GD, for your offering your Dharma. Thank you. And probably, I think now we can close with the 4 vows. Yes. Yeah? Okay.
May our intention equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable.